story you are about to see is true. Only the temperatures have been changed to protect the thermometers.
This is an RV park. There are hundreds like it all across the country. They come in many shapes and sizes, from beachfront to woods to desert. But they all have one thing in common: temperature. And this is the temperature, 102 degrees. I live in this, if you can call it living. This is your van. And this is your van in the heat. Any questions?
Well, of course you have questions. Like, what was that ridiculous intro about? Well, I'm not here to answer that. I'm here to talk about staying cool.
Cool, dude.
Not that kind of cool. Cool is in lowering the temperature in your van when it's hot out.
Bummer.
Your van is a lot like a thermos, and leaving it in the summer sun is going to get it hot. Sure, the insulation is going to protect you part of the way, but even with the best of insulation, you're going to get a temperature change. And what's more, if that van is sitting in the sun and you don't have the AC on, that heat will eventually build up inside the van, getting hotter than the temperature outside.
So what's going on? Well, heat is transferred through three processes: radiation, convection, and conduction. Radiation can carry heat directly from warm to cool objects, like a fire under a pot. So the sun, that big fireball in the sky, emits radiation that heats up the interior, especially through your windows. As heat increases, movement increases, like the liquid boiling in a pot. That's convection. If hot air moves around inside your van, it heats up places that are cooler, like your body. So if you're running a fan, but all there is to move is hot air, well, there you go. Conduction is heat traveling through a solid material, like the heat from a pot that transfers to its handle. Your RV walls and windows conduct the heat to the interior. The insulation will help slow this transfer, but it isn't going to stop it completely. So the interior will get hotter as time goes by. So what do? Well, you could drive to cooler climes, of course, but if you're like us, you want to stay where the action is: an informative museum, a charming town, or some local event. So you don't have the option of just driving off to cooler places. You have to find other solutions.
Take our van, for example. Our Embassy RV has superior insulation, so it can keep the temperature inside relatively constant. But we park it on our driveway, and there isn't any real protection from the sun. So if the interior is already hot, it will remain that constant hot temperature unless we do something. Remember, insulation in a van is like a thermos. It keeps cold things cold and hot things hot. If it's already hot inside, the insulation keeps it hot. It reduces thermal transfer, so the heat doesn't escape. And since our van is parked in direct sun on a hot day, without AC on, it's going to get very hot inside. To cool the van, we have the Ford Transit AC we can use, as well as the split AC system in the back. But remember, the van has been sitting in the sun with outside temperatures over 100 degrees, and is probably already at least that, if not more, inside. That's a lot of heat that needs to be controlled and cooled down, and those AC systems are going to have their work cut out for them. The first thing we really need to do is get that temperature down to begin with. So we open the back and side doors to get that air flowing. It's hotter inside that van than outside, so we can at least reduce the heat somewhat just by exchanging that hot air. After that, we can close the doors and start up the Ford engine and turn on the AC. That will really help start the cool down process. We found the Ford AC really does make a big difference. Once that started to work, we can set the rear AC to get that cold air flowing. With our Embassy, We need to make sure the lower vents are not blocked by something, or we may reduce the cooling efficiency and even make the AC stop working. If that happens, you need to turn it off and restart. We've found turning off the batteries for a short time, turning them back on, and then starting up the AC seems to help with that. But it's best to avoid the problem altogether, so keep those vents free from obstruction. Parking in a shadier spot helps tremendously. If you've taken the time to cool down the interior of the RV, then you don't want that cool temperature to escape. The van is like a thermos, with something cold inside, and direct sun will heat up the outside, which wants to transfer to the inside of the van. And you don't want that. If we're staying somewhere and not driving, we can add window shades for insulation to those areas that are just not that well insulated. This reduces the temperature transfer by keeping the hot outside and the cold inside. So, do any of these techniques actually work? Well, we've had over 100-degree temperatures and gotten the interior of the van down to the mid-80s, while still being in the scorching sun. Staying in a shadier spot would make it that much more efficient. There have been times we've had to turn off the AC as the temperatures dropped at night. The AC made it too cold inside, so yeah, it works. The best way to control hot temperatures is to have the van cooler to begin with. Park under shade. And if it's hotter inside the van than outside, turn on the fan and open those doors to get a breeze going. Once the temperature has cooled down a bit, run the AC to keep temperatures consistent. Remember, the hotter the van is to begin with, the harder it will be to get it to a comfortable temperature. And watch the temperatures in the back of the van too. If we don't have that rear AC on, our forward AC won't necessarily keep it cool back there. And again, if it's hotter in the rear, the AC has to work that much more to bring down the temperature. Well, I hope these tips have helped you keep a cool head in the heat of summer. Be seeing you.